Tennessee has stepped up. Tennessee. I heard Colorado had stepped up pretty significantly.
What, NIL and stuff like that, or for him?
For him,
okay.
I know Rick George, the AD, has a lot of value for Deion and what he's meant to the program. Not only meant to the program, it's meant to the school, meant to the state, all of it. It's just what are his options going to be? If Deion could be an NFL head coach, does that make him sit there and go, okay, this is a place, this is the next chapter for me? I know, having been around his program and him some, and just being there at the Alamo Bowl, the part that you probably can't get the same in the NFL is helping develop young men and take them from a place in their lives where there's uncertainty and you can be transformational in that role. That part I get.
And that's important to Deion, for real.
Yeah, and
he loves that.
It's just going to be a different chapter if he stays there. Whatever Colorado has to do to keep him financially, if there's no NFL in the thing, it's like, to me, that would, and it's obviously easy for say it's not my money,
right?
But it's like, that would seem like a no-brainer, because without him, the program is and was totally irrelevant, and with him, it is nationally relevant. You can hate Deion if you're sick of all the coverage and content and all, but people pay attention to it, and they got a lot better with him there. So, what is it gonna? It's two pieces. It's the NFL. I don't know how much Colorado can compete with the NFL if the NFL comes for him.
Right,
but if it doesn't, it's like, okay, what do we need to do to make sure that this relationship is still thriving?
And when you look at it overall, I could see why Deion would want to move to the Cowboys. It doesn't look like the Cowboys are going to hire him. Looks like they're going to, they're already circling around either Kellen Moore or Brian Schottenheimer. The Raiders just hired a general manager from the Buccaneers, John Spytek, who Brady knows for forever and a day. And, they do have a head coaching position open. They could potentially draft his son. I don't know if that's what they're thinking or what the new general manager would be thinking. I know what the new general manager would be thinking. Brady would know.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is going to be something that pops over the next few days for Prime. But other than that, just staying put and building this next iteration, no doubt one would think, even with the talent that's leaving, stronger version of what he's doing. The Big 12 is a path to a bye week, man. So you can be in the college football thing. It almost was this year.
And it's winnable, Rich, because you look and you saw Arizona State was picked to finish last in it. They had a young quarterback who's really talented, and Cam Scatteraboo, who was an amazing story, came, no offers, went to Sac State, and a lot of credit to Kenny Dillingham. But that program came out of nowhere, and they made it to the playoff, and they almost beat Texas, by the way. So
yeah, I know. And easily the best playoff game. You could say, was it the best playoff game, period? Or Ohio State, Texas got interesting at the end? You know what I mean?
Arizona State, Texas was pretty awesome.
You're looking back at the entirety of the college football playoff. I think that was the best game.
Yeah, I think so.
But again, they're in the right conference to do that from.
Yeah.
Because anybody has a chance. BYU was picked to finish 13th. That was the team, obviously, that blew them out in the Alamo Bowl. BYU could be a top 15 team this year. They would have a chance. And we know Deion has two very coveted quarterbacks there. One was a big recruit from the state of Georgia. The other one was a prolific mid-major quarterback. The offensive line has definitely gotten better from where it was a year ago, and I think should keep improving. It's just, again, I think Colorado is committed to taking another step with him. But the program's going to feel a lot different just because they won't have Travis Hunter, won't have Shador. But if they still have Deion, I think they'll still be able to attract.
Right now?
I think they've certainly come to a comfort level with him, in a pretty prominent role on their coaching staff since moving on from Kellen Moore. I think that was 2 years ago now,
yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think Shotty's if you've been around him, he's very energetic. He's got a great personality. You would not win the press conference by hiring Brian Schottenheimer as your head coach. That's for sure. But I think he's a little bit better at the job than people give him credit for. Now he's bounced around a lot. There's no question about that. And there is that question, with his last name and everything else, why hasn't somebody hired him already if he's that good? It's a fair question to ask. But I think he's in the mix with a few other guys. Kellen Moore is in that mix. And really, I think has some of the things that Jason Garrett had, and the connection to the Jones family. And, then there's Deion, which, I know you wouldn't make this mistake, Rich, but I know a lot of people do make the mistake of thinking Deion's all flash, when he's actually sort of an old school coach whose foundation is on fundamentals and toughness and all those great things. So, those are the names that kind of jump out off the list to me. And I think the one thing that you'd have to be a little worried about is this becoming a little too insular? You know what I mean? In other words, is Jerry just going with something he knows, and trying to hit a double, or is he really trying to hit a home run here? Are the Cowboys too insular right now? Do they need a little bit of a shakeup? I think those are fair questions to ask based on what we've seen, just as far as the candidate list goes.
So Deion's out, or they told each other we're not going to do this, or what? Should we take this and waiting maybe potentially for Kellen Moore as the signs of that's who Jerry's going to hire here?
The Kellen Moore thing. So that obviously you got to slow play it a little bit on Kellen Moore because we see if the Eagles are going to win on Sunday, first of all, and then you can't even talk to him. You can't sit down and talk to him until after that. Now, the good news is they did get him in for a first interview. So if you don't do that, then you can't do the in-person interview. But certainly, we would have some clarity on Kellen Moore next week. They can't hire him until the Eagles are eliminated. So if they win, that's obviously another wrench in this whole thing. But there are a lot of people in that building who have worked with Kellen Moore, who know Kellen Moore. They'd be able to set up an infrastructure for Kellen Moore. I think if they made the decision, say the Eagles win on Sunday and they fly to Philly and they do a formal interview with him on Monday and decide he's our guy, but obviously by rule they can't officially hire him for another 2 weeks because of all the background they have with him, they would be able to start to put together the infrastructure, for the Kellen Moore era in Dallas. And I think the other thing that's important here is the Joneses really love Moore. And the Joneses really saw Moore, again, the same way they saw Garrett, a guy who played quarterback for them, a guy who was, sort of quasi part of the coaching staff while he was still a player, a guy who was pushed up the ladder by them. In a lot of ways, I know I've used this term with you before, Rich, where, Jerry to some degree saw Jason as his creation, and I think that protected Jason for a while there. I think Jerry may look at Kellen the same way. And I think Kellen's really, really capable on top of that. So he's still the name that I have circled here as the one that that makes some sense. And, I know on top of everything else, Kellen's, obviously gone through some ups and downs over the last couple of years.